Boom, we are live, ladies and gentlemen. What an exciting weekend it was. I'm so glad to be back. We're going to be taking a look at Bitcoin and Ethereum, two of our favorite alpha and beta market leaders. I'm going to be then looking at some of our smaller and more interesting plays, one of which this week happened to be the Binance Token. For those of you that were in the private bear den, you would know we were already looking at that DeFi play that they were going to be making. It was quite obvious, we thought, in the background. But I think if you stick around to the end of the video, you'll be very excited because I think there is a little bit more personification and individualization of understanding the pool and the market makers that become a huge advantage to you while playing in these markets. So we're just going to go ahead and we're going to dive in and start actually off today with Binance Token, just because it was like a really beautiful play. I think everyone who was in the bear den and watched this kind of unfold had a really good time, even if they're not in the position, because you don't want to take my word for trade, right? What we're trying to do with the group and with these videos is get you to think critically about your own decisions and come up to your own empowered conclusion, right? So here I had been building throughout this test, this area here, and I had said multiple times that into an SOS, I would sell around 70 to 80% of my position as I went up this scale. So as we started to break out through the first few regression lines, I actually took out a chunk of profits here, right at this kind of first and second top box of my trading range. Now, I was left with about the rest of the 40 to 50% of the position going up the rest here, which I continued to sell 5% here, 5% here, 5% here, 5 all the way up to the top. Now, when we hit the top, I only had like maybe 5 or 10 extra Binance tokens to sell, but I did. I had a set number in my mind that I thought would be a good round area for what I like to keep my VIP trading, and I know this effectively lower commissions and or higher commissions and reduced fees for trading if you're in those VIP ranges. So I knew that it was valuable for me just from a fee standpoint to keep X amount of Binance tokens within this play. So I sold out 70 to 85% of this position. Perfect. Did it perfect this time. And we'll go over, I think we'll go over BAT and Matic just briefly in the background to talk about those too, because I am in a position there at the moment as well, and we'll talk about that. But so I'd exited around 70, maybe even more, maybe even 76, 75% of my position up here, and up this whole process, I let it go as I was going up. So I kept decreasing risk at different profit stages. So I'm not brave enough to actually short, especially this early on in an accumulation area. It just doesn't make any sense to me. So I just sold my position, and I'm going to be waiting and looking for a re-entry. Now, one of the things I thought was kind of important to share was our relationship. Do I have it open here? Of something that was found on the Arcane Bear private group. So I want to give a shout out to Bold for this one. I was in a kind of a last minute conversation, and I wanted to share my outlook about Binance. So I just quickly shared my view. It was dirty. It wasn't anywhere cleaned up. And then this was the distribution. So I'm going to jump ahead of class here for a minute and talk about something. So at the top of the SOS, this is Binance on the 15-minute. And thank you again for Bowen682 for charting this out. When I shared it in the group, I didn't actually have time to draw it up. So here we see the opposite of an accumulation. And remember, the accumulation we're just looking at a Binance token is over a year of time. Here we're looking at a distribution in the 15 minutes. So it will only last so long. But as soon as we had this last point of supply of weakness, we actually started to see a rollover. So this is what the original kind of schematic looks like when you're charting these. This is what they call the break through the ice. It would be the opposite of the break through the creek during the accumulations. You see the UTAD test and then the spike down. So it was this big UTAD test was the sign for me that this was a point of weakness. And now I clearly try to find these because they're quite noticeable in phase D. It was very noticeable now that I look back in Ethereum as well. So you can go back and you can look in Ethereum, you'll find this. But the point here is that I'd closed out all of the positions that I had up to 75 to 85% within this by the time I had gotten to this range. So now that it's started to retrace and gone back a little further, we're currently sitting at 25.15. You can actually look on the 15-minute for these things, and I'm going to start to try to we'll look a little closer, but you can see more areas of likely distribution. Here is another UTAD test and a breakdown. We'll probably have another something similar and then a breakdown. So you have what's called a redistribution after these nicer, clearer charts, and they actually continue to redistribute the price. And again, remember, this price action volume or this price action downwards comes from more supply than there is demand, and this equates to falling prices. When there is more demand than there is supply, this creates rising prices. I know it sounds super simple again, but this is ridiculously simple to think about, but very complex to master the emotions of, because you have to do the wrong thing. When I was selling my Binance tokens up here in these upruns, there were people on Twitter like, why would you sell Binance? Like, I'm holding for the long term, blah, 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 blah. Well, why did I sell? Okay, well, I felt very confident that even though I thought we were going to get something like this, like I thought we were going to go up here, create another LPS, have like maybe a minor SOS and then a big breakout, Compman didn't let that play all the way through. The Compman decided to move the news here, so we saw an SOS, or what might become a minor SOS, break out of the box now. So as we've seen these regress quite far sometimes, maybe as low as the bottom regression line before making another run at the supply. So this is important to keep in mind. But when we were looking at Tron happened very quickly. Here's the box, here's your shootout. You had maybe 25 days to rebuild the position after that 20% downtrend, 14 days, and then it turned around. So what I'm going to be doing with Binance Token here with the private group and everyone, I think, and you do this yourself. Again, please note that this is, I want you guys to do this, so do it. That's the key. Chart it and then watch it and observe. And that's how you can make a more credible thesis every time. It's a more tactile way to respond to the markets instead of getting whipsawed around like a newbie and a retail trader. So where do we come back down to? Where's the lower point of entry? Well, I'm not going to even pretend to guess. I'm just going to be patient. Right now, we still see that there's a lot of supply. Look at the volume. There's lots of supply coming into the market. It's likely that it will continue to fall down lower. Probably even to the middle of this beginning regression line around 21,000. This would be a good spot. If it turns around sooner, and I notice a big change of character, like a serious change of character, where you see an obvious bottom, and then a move up again and over another line effectively, or another even, this is the point where I'm going to start initiating really heavy plays again. Because even though I'm not concerned with the fact that I could have gotten in lower, I'm concerned about the strength of that change of character, because it's going to allow me to take position in this very last portion of the backup phase on a lot stronger of a move. Now I'll explain why I think that's important. So with BAT, here, for those of you that have been in the private bear den long enough to remember this one, I had been building my position in BAT over here, super excited, obvious LPS. We're going up the channel on the regression line, like we're getting higher highs and higher lows, higher lie, higher low, right? Higher high, higher low, higher high, higher low. Beautiful. So when I was accumulating this LPS position and it shot up, I didn't sell 70% of my position yet. I only sold 20. And as a matter of fact, because I was cocky, I was like, yeah, this is the backup phase. I actually accumulated a little bit more here. No, well, look, wait till you get a change of character, because then you will know if you saw a minor SOS or major SOS. And that's what I wanted to look at here with basic attention token, was that because of this minor SOS, it always makes sense to execute and leave on any type of SOS out of the trading range and wait until there's a change of character. Because I would have much rather been more out of my position here and then be waiting for it to re-break back up here to take a position effectively, where there's a more high level of probability that the trade will work out ultimately much more successful and to my favor, but also at the same point being able to take advantage of what was a 60% play almost, instead of letting it all ride right back down to my entry, which can happen with these LPSs, and we've seen before. Binance may return all the way back down to the bottom of its regression line. We're not sure. This may have just been a minor SOS and not even Compman actually stepping up to choose supply. So what does that mean? It means it's important to keep an eye on all of the different variations of a trade, even if you're not in them. So one of the positive things about the group is that we get to do that. So again, I sent a private email out to all the members this morning. You should have gotten our brand new updated PDF, and all your welcome emails were sent out. So everyone had effectively found their way in. See here, we got to let the dog in, because otherwise he's just going to bark and be annoying and ruin the video, and nobody wants to ruin a video because he's a jumpy little guy. Okay, so back to the charts here. So what I want to look at is Matic. So Matic has actually been holding very strong. Again, I made the same mistake in Matic which is that after entering in my LPS position here and seeing a 40% gain, I only closed 20% of that position. So now every step of the way out of that LPS, I actually start closing the position and de-risking my account effectively. Now there's a bigger reason to that, but we'll just leave it as simple as I just start taking profits. We'll say it like that. So Matic having this nice little jump here is actually showing further strength in the higher low again. Very, very important. But on the bigger story, what I want to do now is go to Ethereum and take a look at this larger time frame, especially now that we've gone over Binance tokens. And remember the same story. We had an SOS. Okay, shoot. Well, what did I do wrong? Okay, well, the distribution phase is extremely important. So we're going to be going over that and we're going to be releasing those PDFs. But here we see what could be a very likely UTAD test and then a breakout and actually another sign of weakness. So the question becomes, how low in Ethereum could we go? Well, there's very obvious evidence that these markets have actually been invested in by the retail trader more frequently than a lot of sectors. So could we just come lower, and how low is the point of control? So on the 4 hour and the daily, our point of control is actually quite low, down at like 130 still, right? We haven't built a significant amount of volume above this area, and we could actually be seeing another relationship of an accumulation zone take place. So there is, look, here's the downside, guys. After this SOS, you should be mostly out of your position and waiting for this backup reaccumulation and change of character. Now, for any of the people that have enough money, I think you are just accumulating any of this. You think all of this is a good price because you know ultimately where that this markup process is going is way up here over the next few years, right? So for the people that have an enormous amount of money, this is all good. This is all good price action here still technically, right? So they absorb and they liquidate based off that, testing the markets and building their portfolio based off that, right? Like, could I liquidate 20% of my portfolio at this 60%, 80% gain? And how low will it go? Can I buy it back then at that lower price? And this is how the pools and Compman plays. So there's enough here to say that around 240, the top of our box range, could be a very clear supportive indicator. But I actually think we've found ourselves on some of the previous data support right now. So I can't zoom out too far on this particular chart. Maybe I can get it with USD perpetuals here. No, not the case. So I do believe we have a little bit more further support to justify this area that we're building into now around the $400 area. If we see the point of control at all, which it's very unlikely at this moment that it would switch, but when it does switch, it's going to be a very clear indicator that we're going to continue to move up. And it doesn't need to, but it would be a very clear indicator that it would. Now, I'm not making any bets on that. What we're doing is trying to assume, okay, let's pretend macro makes a difference. Well, if macro made a difference, then you'd be able to predict the pandemic based off the spring, but the spring actually was created by the pandemic. So what we see is that, what about the fake out? Like, maybe I would have made the mistake here, but I thought that this was C, the spring here, and this was a box D. Like it does, it definitely fits that time horizon, right? 249 days. So the pandemic actually only increased the likelihood of a breakout here because it made, look at this lower test of supply based back here in December. Like, we went almost barely lower on both of these, right? So it was a clear sign of that there is no supply left at this range. Like, anything that you're buying this range is nothing but up. So when these people have, when we've accumulated in this area and we get a breakout, we're going to easily liquidate 20 to 70% of our positions, right? We're already up 200% from the bottom of the box. It's absolutely insanity. Right. So, well, how low could it go? Well, I think the most probable are these regression lines, and we've seen almost all of them do that. Use this regression line as a turnaround point. Now, could we go lower? Yes, absolutely. The markets again are full of, let's say, people that don't have enough money to not care that the value of their account has changed. It's not just they have the same amount of Ethereum and want more of it. If you're worried about the US dollar price, you're not playing the game properly. The people that are accumulating in this area, and even the people that are selling up here and taking advantage of that 200% run, they don't probably care what the Ethereum price is at. They just want more of it. So this is their way to accumulate more of that position, right? So there is a reason to believe that we're seeing maybe a distribution area here, right? A UTAD, a last point of weakness. Do we come back lower, drop all the way down to $239? Yeah, it's very likely. We could it'll probably, still come up with some news or something and the price will drop down. Or do we actually see a much stronger absorption of supply here and build a control range into the regression point here? This is actually the one I'm leaning to at the moment, just because of the illiquidity of these tokens, of everything in these ecosystems. I think it is still massively undervalued. So I suspect we're gonna actually move into this regression line instead of drop below it. But what we try to do is let the markets tell us what's happening by paying attention to those. Now again, I don't short in these positions because it's just not worth it. Like taking a short here or anything like that doesn't make any sense to me. I think after such a long time of accumulation and an asymmetrical bet, going short is like the worst thing to do. You'd be just much better off having a position and not thinking at all. Really, I mean, that's why people go down the hodl mentality. But ultimately here, I think we're going to really want to pay attention to this green box that I've drawn here, because this is what we're looking to become our accumulation or our reaccumulation range, not too dissimilar to the full accumulation range we took up here, but here being a reaccumulation for probably about 120 days to really prove that the supply is gone before a nice big chunky markup. Okay, lastly, Bitcoin. This one is the one I want to look at. So here's the Bitcoin thesis, not on log chart, by the way. Buying climax, selling climax, primary support, selling climax, accumulation range, automatic rally. So your supply test, your spring, pandemic, your first test, and an LPS potentially. We could see a micro SOS here. This could be the start of the jump to 14,000, which would be incredible, right? So keeping an eye on all of our trades, remembering that a lot of the times this volatility plays back into the hands of our other plays, but recognizing that if Bitcoin moves again, it's still it scares a lot of the newer traders and the newer investors, and gets them to capitulate more easily. Now, there is an obvious reason to see that we could come back to this regression line in Bitcoin the same way we had seen in all the other ones, right? Have a big SOS and something like a return to the regression line before a much bigger breakout. I actually think that this is not totally far-fetched, although we don't even need to go that low. I think just seeing an SOS, that $14,000 potential, and then a breakdown for a backup, and then a much bigger move out. So this would put us into a longer front thinking position for Bitcoin, and I believe that actually marks the proper standards of play. Anyways, I'm gonna leave it like that because I don't know what my dog's barking at now. You let him out, he barks. You let him in, he barks. It's no good for the video, but that's the way it is. Guys, give us a thumbs up if you like this content. If you are new to the Bear family, remember to subscribe, do all those fun things, and I'm just gonna end this video before he barks more because I can't imagine that's all that enjoyable to listen to. Thank you guys, and we'll see you again soon. I just wanted to give you a quick update about my thoughts on the markets as we move forward, because it is a daily thing and a daily meditation, I think, to look at. So thank you guys. And wait, hold on. Everyone wants a logo. Everyone likes a logo.